Hi, in this video we are going to see how to make your recording better for audiobook. So this is a beginner friendly video and you will record your audio and then you will make that recording good enough for publishing in audiobook. So that is the main goal of this video. The recording you see on the screen is a raw recording. So it is just recorded in microphone and it is in Audacity and no process, no edit has been done on this audio yet. So how you can make this audio good enough to publish as an audiobook? Well, the first starting point if you are using Audacity will be the ACX check. Let me show that what I mean by that. If I select this audio and go to Analyze menu and then go to ACX check, then I will get some technical data about this audio. Now, if you are using Audacity for the first time or by default in Audacity, this ACX check, you will not see this ACX check. You have to install it from outside. Let me show you from how you can install it. From this website, in this page, if you just scroll down a bit, then you will see under individual analyzers, there is ACX check. You have to download this and install on your Audacity. And then the menu of the ACX check will appear on your Audacity. So I'll give all the link in the description. So you do not have to worry about those at this moment. So let's proceed through this tutorial. Now, on the ACX check, you will see values like peak level, RMS level, and noise floor. And you can see for this audio, it says the peak level is too low, the RMS level is too quiet, and the noise floor is passing. So how we can process this so that these technical requirements are met. And when these technical requirements are met, your audio is kind of good enough to be published as an audiobook. There are some other issues you have to be take care of. And you can see all the requirements of your audio or audiobook narration in this ACX audio submission requirements. I'll also give this link in the description. So from there, you can read all the requirements of publishing your audio as an audiobook. And about the peak and RMS, you can see the peak level should be less than -3 dB and the RMS should be between -23 and -18 dB defined in this document, and the same thing is actually reflected in this ACX check. So this is the technical processing of the audio, but how we can actually process it to meet those requirements, let me show you that. So let's listen to it for a couple of minutes.
Water can also be made to change shape in response to vibration. When water comes out of a tube, the shape of the stream is round.
Well, the recording seems quite okay. It is a bit low in volume, but we can fix that using the processing. Now, what will be the first step of this audio processing? The first step would be normalize. I'll show you a 5-step process, and following this 5-step process, your audio will be ready to publish as an audiobook. The first step would be to use the normalize effect. You select the recording and go to effect and then go to volume and compression and then select normalize. So what this normalize effect does, the normalize effect actually sets the peak amplitude of your audio, and peak amplitude means the loudest point of your recording. Your audio will have only one point as a peak. Several points can have similar peak or similar loudest level, but it means that that loudest point will be adjusted by this normalize. And in normalize, you can see there is an input of normalize peak amplitude 2, which should be -3, because ACX, this is in according to the ACX requirements. And if you normalize the peak amplitude to -3, your audio will not be distorted or will not be clipped. And you can see that in the meter that this is the -3, and when you are not crossing -3, you have a bit of headroom to do the further processing. So the first step will be normalize. And also please keep in mind that when you normalize, all your audio data will be affected. So all other levels will increase or decrease depending on what happens to the peak. If I normalize to -3 dB and if the peak increases for this audio, then all the other values, noise floor, RMS, will also increase. We'll see those. So normalize, I will apply this normalize peak amplitude to -3. I'll apply. Now we can see there have been certain changes in the waveform, and the waveform size has increased. By increase, it means actually it has increased in volume, and we can confirm that by listening and also through the ACX check. Let's see the ACX check. Okay, for this point, now the peak level is okay, and the RMS level is still too quiet. It is still not hitting the range of -23 to -18. We'll fix that in processing, and for some audio, just after applying the normalize to -3 dB, the RMS can be good enough, the noise floor can be good enough, but still the 5-step processing I will show is necessary to get the best quality audio, to have a audio that is good to listen to, that is smooth to listen to. So the first step I have applied is the normalize effect, and the next step of this audio processing will be noise reduction. Now, looking at this audio, noise reduction may not be necessary because the requirement is noise floor should be below -60 dB RMS, and for this audio it is -78. So this audio has no issue regarding the noise, but not all the recording will have this kind of scenario. Your recording environment may not be ideal and you need to use some noise reduction. So let me show you how to do that. To use the noise reduction effect, you have to select a part of the audio where you have only noise. So that can be at the beginning or in the middle or anywhere. So it is a good practice to record some noise or some room tone at the beginning without talking, and then selecting that as a noise profile, or you can select from the middle. I'll select some part of the audio from here. So I'll give this Audacity as the noise sample. So to do that, I have to go to effect, and then I have to go to noise removal and deep wire, and then noise reduction. So noise reduction is a 2-step process. The first step is to give Audacity a noise sample from which Audacity will understand that this is the noise. So I have to click on the get noise profile. So the first step is done, and now the second step. For the second step is the actual noise reduction process. So I'll select everything by double clicking and go to effect and go to the noise reduction effect again. So remember, it is a 2-step process. In this step 2, I have to configure all the sliders I see on step 2. And here we have 3 sliders: noise reduction, sensitivity, and frequency smoothing band. Let me explain a bit what actually these sliders does. So the first slider is the noise reduction, and in this noise reduction slider you can go as high as 48, but that is not the ideal value you should set. You should always be between -12. You should always be between 12. So 12 means that when the noise is found or matched by Audacity, it will reduce by 12 dB. So you may ask, well, what is the issue with reducing as much as I can? For example, 48. Why I'll be use something low like 12? Well, too much noise reduction makes the audio sound harsher, thinner, and if you're using a good headphone, you will understand that the audio tone or audio's livelihood or audio's brightness will actually kind of decrease. It will sound harsh, it will sound thin after noise reduction. So if you can between so you should not push this slider as far as you can. Instead, you should be between 12. The ideal value is 6, but sometimes removing just 6 dB noise may not be enough. So you can go up to 12, but not more than that. If you go more than that, then your audio will sound actually bad. And then is the sensitivity. The sensitivity is the kind of, you can say that this is the aggressiveness of the noise reduction algorithm. The more sensitivity you set, the more aggressive the algorithm will be to detect the noise. So every time it just feels a hint of the noise, you will try to remove that. And once again, you should not go as far as it allows. Instead, you should use the value of 6. That will work most of the time. So you should not use too much value for noise reduction or sensitivity, because you have to always look for balance. Your noise will be removed, but the original audio or the original tone will not be affected or will not be compromised. And then there is this frequency smoothing bands. So frequency smoothing bands works like this. When you remove noise from your audio, it kind of creates a gap in the audio data. So frequency smoothing bands kind of tries to reduce that gap. And for voice over or voice recording, the ideal value is 6. By default it is 3, but the ideal value is 6. So if you are working with voice recording, you should use something like 6. So this is a good enough value for noise reduction. You can either use 1266 or 6 in all 3 sliders. As I said, that sometimes just removing 6 dB noise may not be enough, so you can go up to 12. So let's say I will be using 12 for this. The noise radio button should be reduced because we are trying to reduce the noise, and I'll click OK. So the noise reduction is now applied, and if I just check the ACX check, I can actually see how much noise has been removed. I'll go to ACX check, and you can see that the noise is now has become minus 90 for this audio. This audio already had a quite low noise, and after noise reduction it has lowered much, but you just try to understand the concept. For this recording, noise reduction was not necessary, but I have shown you the process. So first step is noise reduction, first step is normalize, and then noise reduction if necessary. And now we are going to the third step, and you can also see that when I have reduced the noise, it also affected some other values, like the peak was -3 before, now it has also lowered, and RMS also a tiny bit of change on the RMS. So this can happen, like if you use effects like noise reduction or other effects, then there can have some side effects and some of the audio values may change, but that is not a problem, we can fix it later. So I'll click OK, and then I'll go to the next effect, which is EQ. Now, if EQ is a complex process, EQ means equalization. You can actually kind of play around with the frequency of your recording with the EQ, but there is one EQ that is required or that is necessary to apply on any voice recording to reduce the low rumbling noise or low frequency noises. Let me show you that. I'll go to effect and then EQ and filters and choose this EQ filter curve EQ, and I will first use the defaults. So this is the EQ filter curve EQ curve. You can see a line, and this line can be adjusted. This line can be adjusted to actually design the EQ you want to apply on your audio. Now I'll go back again for the defaults. Okay, so the EQ we should use, you can see the frequency distribution in the x-axis and the volume adjustment on the y-axis. So if you move this line up, then this means a boost, you are increasing the volume of the frequencies, and if you take this line down, then you are decreasing the volume of frequencies. But the process of EQ is like this: we actually change only volume of only some frequencies, not the all the audio, not the overall audio is affected by EQ. That is not our goal. If I just drag this line up and down, it is actually affecting all the frequencies. That is not how we use the EQ. For EQ to start with, you have to use something like a high pass filter, and we can do that by going to factory preset, and you can choose low roll off for each pitch. That is a good starting point. And you can see that all the audio in this range, all the frequency in this range has been lowered, because you can see that this line has been taken down from this point from 100 Hz. Ideally, you can do that from 80 Hz, because for voice recording, there is a concept of fundamental frequency. That is the starting frequency of the voice. For male, it starts around 80 Hz. For female, it starts around 110 or sometimes higher. So if you reduce the frequencies below 80 Hz, then it will not affect the voice. But if your audio has some low rumbling noise or some noises in the low frequencies, that will be reduced. So that is the purpose of using this high pass filter as a EQ. So EQ has, as I said, EQ is a complex process and it can actually be used to change the tone or shape of the audio. But for this tutorial, we will not go as far on those. Those are a bit advanced topic. So for now, we will be just using this filter curve EQ, this simple high pass filter. I'll apply. So now the EQ is applied. Once again, I can go to ACX check. You can see that there has not been much change on the levels, but the EQ has been done. Now we are going to apply another effect called the compressor. Now the purpose of compressor is to reduce the dynamic range of the audio. Dynamic range means the gap between the lowest point and the highest point of the audio. And if you check this audio waveform, then you can see that these are high peaks, these are taller, and these are not as tall as that. So what we can do, we can actually reduce these gaps so the overall audio will sound balanced. That is the purpose of compressor, and we do that by changing the RMS. So when we apply the compressor effect, it will affect the RMS level of the audio, and we already need to increase the RMS level. So if you want to increase the RMS without increasing the peak, then you should use a compressor effect. So let me show you how to use the compressor effect. Select everything and go to effect and volume and compression and compressor. So this is the compressor configuration window. It seems a bit complex, but for a starting point, you can go to presets, and from factory preset, you can choose lead vocals. If you choose lead vocals, then all the settings like look ahead, attack, release, all these things are kind of okay for voice recording. You will need to adjust a few things, and then this compressor will be done. Now you can see the first setting is threshold. Threshold means at which point, at which audio level the compressor will be active. So if I lower the threshold, you can see this line gets lowered. That means whenever the audio crosses -25 on the meter, the compressor will be active. If I increase this, then the audio level, the compressor will be active when the threshold passes -13. So it depends on the audio, how much compression do you want, the threshold value. So a starting point is something like -14 or -16. This is something good. So I'll be, for this audio, let's say I will be using -15.5. So sometimes you may need to use trial and error to find the best threshold point and compressor settings, because you will be looking to how much increase in the RMS you are getting after applying the compressor. If you are getting too much increase in the RMS, then you have set the compressor settings too aggressively. So let's try with these -15, and then another thing is the ratio. The compressor, how much compression it will be applied depends on the combination of threshold and ratio. In threshold, the lower the threshold, the more compression will be done, because more of the audio will be active in the compression mode, and ratio means how much compression it will be done. So 5.2, which has been in the lead vocals, is quite high. It should be something between 2 to 4. Something 2 or between 4. So if you use too much compression, then your audio will sound unnatural. So what actually happens with the ratio of 4? With ratio of 4, whenever your audio crosses the threshold level, then for every 4 dB increase in your audio level, only 1 dB increase will be applied. So that way the audio will be compressed. So I will be using something like 3. So this is the settings where I apply this, and this kind of settings actually works okay on the most of the recording. If your audio is recorded in a proper way, this kind of compressor settings will do fine. So I'll apply these settings and see what happens. So you can see that some of the high peaks have been shrinked because those are compressed, and the audio look balanced, like more balanced than before. And if I go to ACX check, we can see the current standing of RMS and the peak. We can see the RMS have been decreased and peak has decreased quite a lot. So as I said, if you want to increase the RMS, that you have to use the compressor, but we do not see that here. Well, the thing is, you have to use the compressor when you do not want to increase the peak, but want to increase the RMS level. And after applying the compressor, the peak and the RMS, everything affected. But to get the true measure of this thing, we have to apply a normalize effect again. So always remember, you apply a compressor and then you apply a noise reduction, and then you will get a true picture of your audio levels. So I will apply the last normalize. And as I said before, the normalize should be -3. I'll apply this and the volume has increased again. And if we check the ACX check, then we can see the peak level is passing, the RMS level is passing, and the noise floor is also passing. So noise floor and RMS is now in good condition after applying this normalize and after applying this compression and the normalize. So the 5 effects: normalize, noise reduction, EQ, compressor, and normalize. If we apply these 5 effects, your audio is technically okay, technically good to be used in audiobook platforms like ACX or other platforms. So I have gone through the process in detail, how you can make your audio as good as to be applied on the. So I have gone through the process of how you can make your audio as good as to be accepted in the audiobook platforms. Now, if you want to go deeper, if you want to learn deeper, then I have several options. For example, you can actually have a one-to-one training call with me where I can analyze your recording and give you feedback where it is good, where it needs improvement, and how to process it in your software like Audacity or Adobe Audition. And if you are looking for some training with Audacity where you can know all the details of Audacity and you can use it for professional work like voiceover or audiobook, you can look at the Audacity Mastery training. The Audacity Mastery training is actually 5 90-minute class with me in a group settings, and the next class will be starting on this 14th October. So if you are watching this video before that, you have chance to catch this class, or if not, then you have chance to attend the future classes. So there will all the updates will be given on this link. I'll share this link and you can see the classes will happen on every Tuesday for 5 weeks at 7 a.m. Pacific time. I have also other times zones listed here, and there will be also a repeat or makeup class. So in case you have missed the Tuesday class, you can attend the Friday class, which will be happening at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So if you are trying to learn Audacity for your audiobook narration or for voiceover, for podcast or content creation, so if you are looking for getting the best quality audio using Audacity, you can look at this training. And if you have any questions, please feel free to comment on this video. I also have my email address in the description. So if you want to ask any question about the training or the one-to-one services or any other things I offer, please feel free to reach. Thanks for watching.